Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about more ways that set 16 Realm of the Gods buffs older decks that you guys probably love. This is kind of like a part 2 to a video I did about 2 weeks ago, and in that video we talked about the tournament pack cards, which this time around seem to support older decks much more so than they seem to be meant for the new decks in set 16. But as I was looking through the card database again for set 16 for some video ideas, I noticed that so many cards in this main set, whether directly or indirectly, are very applicable with older strategies, and you guys might not be aware of that. So we're going over that in today's video. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you don't miss a video, and let's talk about how these cards aid older decks. Alright, so this one admittedly is pretty obvious. We have SS4 Vegeta ready to strike and SS4 Goku ready to strike. These are multicolor black, yellow, and black, blue cards that go for the SS4 Bardock Rainbow deck. We didn't really get a chance to read these in any of our card review videos, so it's a good chance to do it now, see what they do, talk about how these cards might work in the SS4 Bardock deck. So for the Vegeta, we have a Xeno Evolve for a black or a blue over a Vegeta Xeno with an energy cost of 3 or less. This might as well have just been an EX Evolve for black, because the flexibility thing is kind of weird, because all the energy you're going to charge in that deck for the most part is going to be black/X. So yeah, I don't really know why they wanted to make it blue. I guess maybe it gives a little bit of playability in some other decks. But anyways, auto limit 1, burst 1. When this card is played or your opponent attacks, if the card placed in your drop barrier using this skill is a black sand card, draw 1 card. So yeah, I mean, you really get rewarded for having your deck full of these kind of Xeno sand cards, so you can draw off of that ability. Then we have Goku. So we have pretty much same Xeno Evolve, except this time it's for a yellow or a black. And then we have auto limit 1, burst 1. When this card's played or your opponent attacks, if the card placed in your drop area using this card skill is a black sand, your opponent chooses a card in their hand and sends it to the warp. So kind of like the inverse of Vegeta. Honestly, unless you need more names for like fusion or maybe more charge material, I don't really see these cards being all that incredible. One, the effects are just RNG, right? Like, you're gonna play a lot of sands in this deck, but again, it's not guaranteed that you'll hit. Maybe you'll mill a Senzu Bean, maybe you'll mill an extra card, maybe you'll mill one of your few non-sand cards. So the lack of consistency for these cards, plus the fact that there are already plenty of good Gokus and Vegetas you can play in that deck that don't need to be these cards, I don't think they're going to be super playable, but they are there if you think there's a build you can go with that can utilize these pretty well. Alright, next up, these are ones that I'm pretty excited about. So we have SSP Goku Future on the line and Vegeta Future on the line. So these are indirect support for the yellow Whis deck, and I'll explain why. So Vegeta is much better than the Goku, admittedly. Vegeta can be played from the deck by Whis' Awakened Leader ability, which is pretty insane. There's some like downside to playing this card in the deck, because you can't really pull off his own EX Evolve unless you decide to include a Vegeta with energy cost of 1 that you normally probably wouldn't have played. But if you play this like a 2 of, this is an awesome card to tech, because you can play it with that leader ability. And this card is actually insane. I mean, just ignoring barrier, KOing something is really good, but in the yellow mirror, this is actually a really big step up. And a lot of other yellow decks, like the new Trunks deck coming out in set 16, can't actually play this card when the opponent controls Slug, because part of the cost of playing it is drawing a card. So you actually can't fulfill that cost while Slug's on the board and has Bond active. So being able to cheat this out from the deck with Whis is actually a really cool way to put this in play and get around that Slug. And then SSP Goku, you can't really cheat it out from the deck, but obviously you play plenty of Gokus that you would be able to evolve this over. And I think the effects are pretty cool. So when you EX Evolve it, goes back to active mode. And then auto once per turn, Spirit Boost 1 when this card attacks, draw 1 card. Then choose one of your opponent's battle cards, rest mode, and KO it. Whis is pretty reliant on the Vados Unison in that deck, so Spirit Boost shouldn't be too much of a tall order. You get some draw power, and you get some regular removal, which I think is not too bad for a 2 cost, especially the fact that it restands and offers dual attack. So there's even like an aggressive element there, which is kind of cool. So I'm pretty excited about these cards and trying them out in a yellow Whis deck. Maybe I'll bring a build to the channel if I come up with one that I'm pretty happy about. Then we have SSG Son Goku Miraculous Transformation. Now this card is a really generic blue card, but the reason I'm including it in this video is because it seems to be better for older leaders than it actually is for the leader it's meant to be played with in the main set. So Goku, basically what he is, he's kind of like an upgraded Deadly Defender. You can counter attack with him for 3 energy when your opponent has 3 energy, and then basically your opponent can't attack your leader while this card's in rest mode. They can't attack with battle cards specifically. He's got great protection, deflect, barrier, also has triple strike. The card's really solid. The thing is though, like, it's meant to be played in this new SSG Goku deck, which untaps 1 energy per turn, but realistically it seems a lot better in Soul Striker, which untaps 2 energy per turn, SS3 Reboot, which untaps 3 energy per turn, so this is going to be a perfect use case in that type of deck. And it also seems better even in like SS4 Vegeta Ramp, where you're just building up an excess amount of energy to actually use this card and not feel too bad about tapping 3, because while the card is very good, tapping 3 in some cases can be quite expensive. Like in Soul Striker, for example, only getting 2 energy back, you may want to like Senzu Bean or Dimension Magic before using this card so you don't fully tap out if the situation's not quite safe for it. So yeah, that's the reason I included this in this video, is because I think it is better for those older blue leaders, and I just want to kind of, you know, point that out to you guys. Then we have Margarita Angel of U11. This card's cool. So this is a 2-drop green-yellow card. It's a barrier blocker. If you have 1 or more multicolor energy and this card in your hand is played or used in a combo, your opponent chooses a card in their hand and discards it. And then auto limit 1, when your opponent plays a battle card using a skill or activates a counter skill, choose up to 1 of your opponent's battle cards and switch to rest mode. So this is basically an in-archetype Poutine for, 1, the Great Priest deck in set 16, but also for the yellow Jiren deck, which can play this card for free via attacking with a leader, which is awesome. You guys may know that I'm a pretty big fan of the yellow Jiren deck. I've more so been playing it mono yellow as of late, although it's not really much better of a deck than Icarus, so I haven't been playing it as much, but I still think the deck is very cool. The leader ability to protect himself is very, very interesting, especially if we ever kind of transition back into more of a aggressive format. And this card's a really cool tool you can play in that deck, because you can play an on-theme free playable Poutine. Now, if you play a mono yellow variant, you're not gonna be able to use the first auto, but if you play a green yellow variant like it was kind of intended to be played, this card is gonna get an insane amount of value. Play it for free. It's a barrier blocker. Pitch a card from your opponent's hand, and now they have to deal with the Poutine that they can't easily remove. And you can also just put Poutine in play as well next to this if that card survives the ban list, and then just rest 2 of their battle cards. So that can get pretty crazy. Pretty cool card in this video to talk about. Alright, then we have some Finn support. So firstly, we have Finn Evolutionary Premonition, 2-drop 5k, deflect barrier. When this card's played, draw 1, activating once per turn, spirit boost 1, black unison card with a specified cost of 2 or more, and you have 4 or more energy. Choose up to 1 black Finn card with an energy cost of 8 in your hand and play it on top of this card. So this is basically some easier access to playing your 8-cost boss monster, which is cool. Deflect barrier, great protection. The spirit boost I wouldn't say is too restrictive. You do want to play a unison down in the Finn deck. In my experience, it's been the SS4 Bardock unison, and you do have to have 4 or more energy, but basically off of that, paying no energy to go into the boss monster is pretty nice. I mean, if you play this card that same turn, it costs you 2 energy, but if you play this card a turn earlier or something and just kind of let it sit there with the deflect barrier, the turn you want to play your boss, it can cost you 0, which is kind of cool. And then we have Mira Unwavering Loyalty, 1-drop auto when this card's played, draw 1, activate once per turn, burst 2, spirit boost 1. If your leader card's a black android card and you choose 1 card in your hand and discard it, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, add up to 1 black android card with energy cost of 3 or less among to your hand, then shuffle your deck. Admittedly, in my opinion, this card's pretty weird. I mean, it's a Mira cantrip, cool. I don't really think there's anything you can evolve over this, because most of the Mira stuff requires unit absorb, and then pitching a card to possibly miss a top 7 search isn't really all that attractive to me. If it like let you search, and then if you added a card pitch after the fact, that'd be kind of neat, and I can see this being cool for getting your bursts going. That's not bad, but again, like besides that, I don't think this card's all that great. But Finn Evolutionary Premonition I do find to be a pretty interesting card. Then we have Whis Angel of U7 and Vados Angel of U6. So I talked about Vados in yesterday's video and did mention Whis by name, but these cards are more or less indirect support for red-blue rogue decks. So you have Invoker, you have Cooler, and you have any other random red-blue decks that you might play. People have actually even been playing red-blue Soul Striker as of late, and these cards are very playable in that. So Vados is a counter play, Whis is a counter attack, and they both untap an energy when they're played or used in a combo. So they are very, very energy efficient. I think Vados is really, really good for negating the play of a 15k power or less. Like Mecha Freezer Robotic Riposte is a crazy popular card in the current format, and this card being able to stop that for only 1 energy, I think is actually a really, really big boon. And then Whis, I just like the fact that he's a 1 energy, more or less stopping 2 attacks for 1 card. I think that's really, really good. In the Great Priest deck, he has the added benefit of being used for free by taking a life, but I mean, still, a 1 energy stop 2 attacks seems pretty solid to me, in my opinion. Then we have Demon God Poutine and Support of the Dark Empire. So I put these cards here towards the end of the video because I did talk about these yesterday, and I wanted to put the new material more so in the beginning for you guys. But yeah, just briefly going over these, I mean, this pair of cards is just so good for any black deck. Like, if you guys like for example, maybe like Wormhole Demigra or SS4 Goku or even SS4 Gohan. Like, there are so many good black decks you can play this in. A couple commenters, rightfully so, pointed out that you can't actually play these cards in Vegex, which I kind of just overlooked and forgot about. That leader says you can only play black battle cards, which implies you can only play them to the board, so you can't play these colorless tokens, which does make a lot of sense, obviously. But yeah, there are so many other black decks where these cards are going to pick up a ton of value, that this really is like an indirect buff to all older black decks. And what's nice is, like, while these are good black cards, I mean, Support of the Dark Empire is not going to really apply to this, but more so for Poutine. These are cards that buff non-Gogeta Xeno decks, because Gogeta Xeno isn't super focused on Overrealm like a deck that would want to house Poutine would be. Support of the Dark Empire, yeah, it's going to be great in Gogeta Xeno. It's going to be great in just about any black deck, again, besides Vegex, but still excellent cards for supporting older black strategies that you guys might love to play. And then we have Son Goku Sign of Mastery, which is a counterplay that is pretty much specifically tied to red U7 Goku leaders, which is a bit narrow, but I just like the fact that this supports the starter deck critical U7 Goku leader, because that leader, I always like when that leader gets some love because I enjoy playing it personally. And then SSB Vegeta, we talked about it yesterday, where this can support just about any monocolor Tournament of Power U7 leader, but the stipulation is being able to use Sparking 10 readily, which not all the leaders can do. Off the top of my head, you have U7 Goku coming out in set 16, you have Red Gohan, who relies on comboing to draw cards, and you have the yellow U7 Frieza leader that pitches cards to draw cards. So those leaders should be pretty efficient at setting up a drop area to make this guy playable for 2 energy. And then we'll end the video today, guys, on Rumshi, who is pretty solid support for the Dende Wish archetype. I mean, technically there's also the yellow Frieza Wish deck, but that one never ever really took off. Dende Wish has definitely been the more popular variant, relying on a lot of Frieza cards, admittedly, but still, this card is just an excellent engine card. Helps you put Dragon Balls into the drop area, gives you a board wipe if you play it for 4. I think this card is very, very solid. But anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoy set 16 and your older decks that they are able to support. Let me know in the comments below what decks you guys are playing that get support from set 16, and I'll see you guys in the next video.